Now, we have a battery of experts who are joining us, domain experts on this special broadcast. But I want our viewers to understand, now, Pakistan is a very narrow, dog-shaped country. And when you look at that country, and remember Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when he got to Pakistan, he said, I've got a moth-eaten Pakistan. So let me show you that moth-eaten Pakistan, and let me also show you where Pakistan, in this moth-eaten country on the map, has its missile and transport erectable launcher production bases, its air bases from where it can launch the F-16s, which are nuclear capable, where it has the garrisons, where it has these missile launchers or the transport erectable launcher sites, and where are the places like Sargodha, for example, or where its missile production happens. So that's the Pakistani map, all the way from Pakistan's Punjab province to the Sindh province. You're looking at where Pakistan has, so for example, let's start from the bottom. In Karachi, in Sindh, you have the Masroor Air Base. It has the Mirages there, which Pakistan insists are nuclear capable. It has the Akro Garrison, where it can find surface-to-air missiles. Then you start moving up north. You have the Shahbaz Air Base, once again capable of launching nuclear missiles. They have the F-16s that are at the Mushaf Air Base. You have the Gujranwala Garrison, and Gujranwala and Sargodha are very, very critical. The Rafiki Air Base once again has the Mirages. The Taranwa Missile Complex is where they produce not just the missiles but also the transport erectable launchers. So this is where you see the Dera Ghazi Khan is a nuclear complex where they have plutonium production and uranium extraction, the Chashma reprocessing plant. So Pakistan's entire missile and nuclear weapons network is there on your television screen, and we shall take this base by base to get you more details over the course of the next several days. I have Lieutenant General Satish Dua joining me on this special broadcast. He's former Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff. He's also commanded the Kashmir Corps, joining us on this broadcast. Commodore Anil Jai Singh is a veteran submariner. And remember, it's the submarine arm that's a very critical force to deliver the second strike capability. We have with us Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor, former Director General Inspections and Flight Safety, to tell us more about what are India's options to take out the threat that emanates from Pakistan. And if we were to talk about, is it the Navy this time? Is it the Army? Is it the Air Force? Let me begin by asking, General Dua. General Dua, what do you make of Pakistan's nuclear saber-rattling? What Hanif Abbasi, their railways minister, said, is that a potent threat, or is that a message perhaps for the West to intervene and save Pakistan?
Gaurav, Pakistan has been playing the nuclear card for too long. It was in the Kargil war, Kargil conflict, and later, especially during the Uri surgical strikes, and I was a corps commander that time,
yes,
that we found that little space below the nuclear threshold. And we also repeated that after Pulwama happened, by the precision airstrike at Jabba Top near Balakot.
yes.
So, Pakistan, as you were yourself saying a little while ago, that Pakistan knows that it is no match for India in conventional terms, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And in fact, that is why it has waged this death by 1,000 cuts policy, proxy war.
Yes.
So, Pakistan at this stage, when India has already unleashed a slew of very, very harsh measures, harshest among them being Indus Water Treaty, which a suspension which has withstood 3.5 wars, but never been sort of used as a leverage. So, when such measures have been unleashed, when Prime Minister has announced to the world, after Defense Minister having announced already, when he announced, we're speaking in Bihar, when he speaks in English, he's addressing the global audience and saying that we are going to track down not only the terrorists, but also the ecosystem. So Pakistan is rattled. Now, as far as your nuclear saber rattling is concerned, rattled it certainly is. So the only thing that it does, it knows, it does always in such situations is nuclear saber-rattling. Because as you rightly said, Pakistan now perhaps wants West to intervene
Okay.
because they are rattling. And
Now, when you
last
look at the...
last two sentences, just allow me
Go
last
on,
two
sir.
sentences.
Go on, sir.
So nuclear uh, rattling is different, but actually putting it into effect has different dimensions. It is not just nuclear weapons to be used. It is that military aspect. There is of mating different components. They are at different places. It's a complex process. It is not something that can be launched because you were showing those bases. It's not that it can be launched from one base.
True.
That's one aspect. So when movement takes place, the world will pick it up. Sensors pick it up. Satellites pick it up. So there is a whole gamut. And on the second last sentence from my side, there is the whole global dynamics. Because Pakistan today is seen as epicenter of terrorism. If it even tries to move in that direction, it will become a global pariah. So I think there is a lot to be seen in that. Yet we must always keep our guards up. Guard up, and we've already started with those exercises, revalidating our defense preparedness, and we are fully prepared to meet any threat.
Okay. Air Marshal Kapoor, when you look at Pakistan's nuclear saber-rattling, when you look at the kind of fighter jets it has, when you look at its missiles, its missile launchers, and some of them, they're actually showing, they're displaying to the world that at least some military movement is taking place closer to the borders. Is that reassuring their own country, or are we in a position, when you look at the situation and when you look at the entire international border, line of control, and actual ground position line, are we in a position to dominate this battlefield completely, or is there a way we can punish them without the kinetic means just as yet?
The build-up which has happened is immediately after Pahalgam. So my understanding of the whole situation is that they were forewarned that we will ask you to be ready on this date at this time. And obviously, the very next morning after 22nd, you could see the movement on Flight 24 radar and other activities. Now, coming to your point about capabilities, Pakistan has F-16s, JF-17s, and Mirage 3 and 5 variants, which can carry nuclear weapons. And they have their own missiles, Raad, this thing is a Hataf 8 and Raad 2. These are the two weapons that they can carry. And primarily, these are nuclear gravity bombs along with certain air-launched cruise missiles. Now, the map which you just showed a little while ago, if you see, your viewers see this map, or if you can flash it again.
We'll just flash that map once again. That big map of... I want our viewers to see that map that we just showed, dog-shaped Pakistan with all its facilities. Go on, sir.
So if you notice, the complete processing plants, the nuclear complexes, and the other enrichment things are away from the Indian border. So that is the depth with which they have set up these things. The frontline bases acts as a guard to those bases, because if any attack comes towards Pakistan, it will come from the easterly direction. So This is how, when they planned their the primary industries and the bases which they planned, was keeping these things in mind. So it is not that their Dera Ghazi Khan and Kushat nuclear complex and Chashma processing plant and all these things will not be guarded. It will be guarded both by the air defense weapons, it will be guarded by the missiles, and it will have, of course, the air defense aeroplanes guarding from the ORFs. So we are aware of all the tactics that will be employed in case of any conflict. And obviously, these would be a target. But when, how, and from where is the question. So the dynamics which I covered on the channel the other day, sorry, I was on Republic the other day. See, the two things which are emerging out was, one is the large number of officers and their soldiers who are putting in the resignation. So the internal things which are coming out on social media, and also the lot of local commanders, their battalion commanders, their brigade commanders, their div commanders are sending panic messages that they are running short of ammunition and other things. So like I covered with you 2 days ago, that the army this time is stressed within their own law and order enforcement in their own country, starting from Balochistan right till...
No, that's a very pertinent point you make. In fact, I'll come to that point in just a moment. Can Pakistan fight on multiple fronts? Because that's again a map that we will put out. Because on India Today, we want our viewers to understand that Pakistan is not in a position to wage war against India except war by other means, which is using these radical Islamist terrorists. And I once again want to show you the map. I want to go by base and some of the prominent bases. So for example, when we talk about the Akro garrison, which is a possible nuclear capable missile base, I want to show you this missile base for a moment, where I want you to understand that what all does Pakistan have here. Watch this. When you take a look at this nuclear capable missile base, it has its own weapons handling building. It has the TEL. TEL is their transport launchers. They have the garages there. And this is where I want you to understand. So there's a covered ramp there. Watch these images very carefully. The weapons handling bases, the main missile launch area, the covered access, and this entire perimeter. If you watch in these images, this entire perimeter is very well guarded. What is it guarded by? Not just men on ground. It has surface-to-air missiles around it, which means very clearly that they expect and anticipate that these bases could well be targeted. And I once again want to bring in Commodore Anil Jaisingh into this conversation. Commodore, the fact that Indian Navy used the surface-to-air, the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, was the signal that it's a supersonic cruise missile? Can it be intercepted? Or once you fire a barrage, maybe some can be intercepted, some will hit. Is that Pakistan's fear?
Yes, of course. I think, Pakistan this time has bitten off more than it can chew. We've seen right from independence, whenever the internal situation has been tenuous, they've tried to divert attention by doing something with India. And every time, unfortunately for them, it's backfired on them, but they don't seem to be learning any lessons. In this case, if you take this particular instance, I'm sure India is now quite sick and tired of all this, sort of constant sniping at our heels, and is planning a decisive action of some kind, whether kinetic or non-kinetic or a combination of both. But from a maritime perspective, the very fact that we can fire a missile like the BrahMos, and we've shown one yesterday by firing one, firstly indicates our readiness, secondly indicates our conventional superiority over the Pakistan Navy. The Pakistan Navy really is hardly a force to reckon with. If you just take the force levels, which are not really a very valid sort of comparison, but for example, we've got 16 submarines, they've got 3. Yes. So that's a sort of, asymmetry between our two naval forces. And more important, I think, is the fact that a fleet, just by its sheer presence, can intimidate a weaker force. Not only that, the Indian Navy, without firing a shot, can perhaps choke Pakistan economically. And I think, personally, that is Pakistan's jugular vein right now. They are so strapped economically that they do not have the capacity to fight a war, if that is what they're spoiling for. And insofar as that nuclear threat goes, I think, this is something we've heard regularly from them. Nuclear threats, firing a nuclear weapon is not something that one does, by the way, as General Dua said. It requires a very, very informed decision to do that. And obviously, India is not going to, just because they're going to do a tactical nuclear weapon at sea to probably take out an aircraft carrier, does not mean that India will not retaliate, with its massive retaliation second strike. So Pakistan has to be worried about that. So I don't think this nuclear rhetoric has been created by them many a time, that it's not meant to be in show windows, it's meant for use against India, etc. This is not the first time, as you showed yourself in your program. But I think as far as the Navy is concerned, the Navy is overwhelmingly superior. We can establish firm sea control in the North Arabian Sea. If push comes to shove and the situation escalates, we can impose something like an exclusion zone. Just send the message out to the world that, look, your ships can come in with trade, but we don't guarantee their safety. That in itself will increase the insurance premium so much that Pakistan will not be able to afford those ships coming in to bring cargo to them. And this is particularly true if you decide to hit their energy.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Pakistan knows this. I mean, in 71, Karachi was burning for 11 days and Pakistan ran out of fuel. But I want to understand from our view, from our experts, General Dua, I'm sure Asim Munir, the radical Islamist, Quran-quoting Maulana that he is, I am sure he must be knowing all of this, and yet he did, what he did at Pahalgam. Are we to understand? They've wargamed it. They've wargamed fine. After Uri, India did a surgical strike. After Pulwama, India did a Balakot. And then they did a swift retort. And after that, we were silent. Which means they've wargamed it, that we are not willing to go up the escalation ladder. And perhaps even now, we may try another Balakot, but we will not do. So they will strike. We strike. They strike again. We are not willing to climb up the escalation ladder. Is that the message he would be thinking in his tactical mindset?
No, I think Pakistan has been rattled over the last 5 years by their diminishing relevance in affairs of Kashmir. How India has turned the tables after abrogation of Article 370, and how peace, development, tourism, etc. has increased in Kashmir, and feeling of normalcy setting in. So they've taken a leaf out of the Hamas playbook. Hamas also knew on 7th October when they attacked the Nova Music Fest and innocent people out for a party, that they will invite retaliation. Now, our retaliation may be different, but Asim Munir knows it. And
okay.
I think he's doing this first to increase the relevance for the domestic audience. Perhaps he's also, look at the rant of a speech he gave a few days before this Pahalgam episode happened. He's also looking to consolidate his own position. Some even say that he's looking at a coup when things turn worse. So there are other dynamics at play within Pakistan. I'm sure he knew that they will invite that kind of wrath. But I think no one counted on Indus Water's suspension, which has the potential of actually creating a civil unrest in the country, in their country. We are already hearing the rumblings. And coupled with the Balochistan problem, the Pashtun problem, and the civil unrest happening over here, I think Pakistan and their rulers are in for a tough time.
They're in for a tough time. How long is your appreciation, Marshal Kapoor, of Pakistan? Because there are many who say, and in fact there are some voices within Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that it says it's high time. Balochistan should become an independent country. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa should become, Pashtunistan. Sindh should become Sindhu Desh. And then all the terrorists can keep fighting. Those Pakistani Punjabi Musalmans, they can continue to fight in Punjab province, because the rest is ours and we will take what is ours. But Marshal Kapoor, is that a pipe dream of people in Balochistan and Pashtunistan?
Yes, this time it is different. The struggle has been on, and this is the fourth or the fifth struggle of Balochis seeking independence. But this time it is different because all the loose factions came together. Ms. Bahrang Baloch took on the mantle of women taking the front. In a country like Pakistan, I have never seen. In December last, in Jan this year, she took lakhs and lakhs of women who marched across complete of Balochistan right till Islamabad. So, and across in this journey, the armed forces put a lot of barriers and restrictions, but she did reach. The second point is the sympathy for Imran Khan, who is in prison. The third experience which I have is that the alliance between TTP and BLA. Now, 4 or 5 loose factions of Balochis have come under the umbrella of BLA. So this Jafar Express hijacking and also associated attack on the military has a stamp. Because the weapons which are caught and taken by them bear the stamp of these weapons which are left behind by the Americans in Afghanistan. So those weapons
very interesting, you should point that out. So the impression you're giving is that Pakistan's internal troubles, the Indus Waters Treaty, will not lead to the situation escalating whatsoever, even to a conventional war, let alone expanding to a nuclear war. Gentlemen, I want to continue talking about this, but perhaps we'll leave it for a later day. For joining me here on India Today, many thanks.